a three and a two and a one. Oh, it's all serious now. It's all serious now. All the energy just changed. This is Free Minds season 2, episode
11.
Once,
yeah. I forgot how to count past 10.
we don't really do Spanglish. I just say the numbers in Spanish.
Congratulations on season 2, you guys.
Thank you.
And,
thank you.
Today we have myself, which is the Trey Jackson. I've never said that before. And
John's back.
John's back. Johnny Nichols. Back. And then our guest today is Marie. You could just introduce yourself.
Marie Anne June Tagorda, but some people actually call me Pachamama.
Pachamama.
Yes, I was dubbed that name.
Should we refer to you as that on this the whole time?
Well, I think Marie Anne is okay because my book actually says my name.
Yeah.
But the people I've worked with, they don't really know me as Marie Anne. They kind of know me as Pachamama, except a few maybe.
So you have a book, right?
That's right.
What's the name of it?
It's called Taking Back My Health and Happiness.
Okay.
We're
going to get in.
Yeah, the subtitle is Hope and Healing from Chronic Pain, Fatigue, and Invisible Illness.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people in the United States and the world have that going on right now.
Yes.
Especially fatigue.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm trying to fix my posture so my energy can flow through me a little better. So, like I said, we kind of start this with just kind of like wanting to know a little bit about who you and where you came from and how you kind of got to be on this journey of like, we kind of like feel like something's off. And I remember reading your book, you were saying like, I've in your like midlife crisis or whatever, it was early, but you're like, something felt off. And like, I think a lot of us feel that something's off and like we don't tell anybody about it. We just kind of keep it to ourselves. So you want to just kind of get into like, I guess, your life and like how it kind of progressed into I am this person and then something felt off and like how that happened.
Yeah. So looking back into early college years, I pretty much had everything. I was top of my class. I was doing really well in school, and I was in this major club at the school. I was also an officer in the student council for the nursing. So like I had a lot of friends, family's great. Everything was fine, but something just hit me that something just wasn't right, but I couldn't figure out what it was. And I kind of shared it a little bit with the people I was with, but everybody just says, oh, you should be thankful for what you have. It's the basic, thankfulness, all that stuff, which is also helpful for sure. But there is a much deeper meaning behind it. So I kind of not really paid attention to it a little bit. And somehow, when we don't pay attention to those things, we start feeling things physically. Because now I can see how whatever we feel inside actually reflects on what's going on outside of ourselves or, outside of our life in general, like relationships.
Yeah.
And for many, it actually turns into something physical, like headaches and migraines. A lot of times I see a lot of people having headaches, different kinds of headaches. I mentioned in the book, there's ones coming from the top of the head, on the side, in the back. So they're all coming from different places. And like in your podcast where we need to be more authentic, that was the start of me doubting myself and wanting to belong, wanting to find where I could fit in.
Right.
And so I started to compromise as to what I really want. And I was not really in the community where I was cultivated or nurtured into finding out what I really wanted in my life. It tends to be what other perceives as was best for you that you go for. So how did that kind of start when like what was happening in your life at the time, I guess, and like what were you
you said was kind of a feeling that you were like kind of pushing down and ignoring.
Yeah.
Did it just keep coming up in every day? And can you get more specific, I guess?
It wasn't necessarily every day because, I would always try and find happiness in the little things that I do, but it always come back. It's like this nagging thing, like, oh, I'm happy now. And then 2 days later, oh, we're back here again, hello,
Right.
hello, confusion,
Right.
So it keeps coming back. And in a way, I've been looking for other means. So when I got to the United States, I didn't actually find yoga. I was actually in Kung Fu classes.
Okay. So you came to the United States. Where'd you come from? Just for a little background.
I grew up in the Philippines.
Okay.
And then I came here when I was 10. Then I went back there and finished schooling, college for nursing. And I came back 5-6 years later.
And are you in New York? Are you in New York now?
Yes, I'm in New York right now.
Okay.
Yeah. I've always lived in New York, other than the Philippines. Yeah.
And I'm just reading your background on Amazon here. You're a registered nurse as well?
Yes, I'm a critical care nurse actually, and I've worked since 2006. Yeah, I've been working in different areas. Nursing, we have that capacity to move, and we also upgrade, and we move to different areas to grow ourselves. Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, how did I guess what was the first point in your life where the universe was kind of like, hey, if you don't pay attention to this, like it's gonna get like you have to pay attention to this. Like mine came in an injury. Like how did yours kind of start to manifest? You said it kind of manifests on the outside. What was like the first, I guess, outward manifestation of like ignoring this inner voice that wanted to come out, if that makes sense?
Okay, so the thing with me was it was during the Dawn Master course because
okay, so
that
and that is I guess we should just explain what that is.
Yes. So Dawn Master course is really Dawn meaning energy. Mm-hmm. So to be an energy master and be able to share that with the world, share that with people, teach them how to not necessarily manipulate, but really how to use energy in their everyday life, that kind of thing. And what happened to me was at the end of that course, I was able to commune with nature, so to speak. It was almost like I could hear Mother Nature.
Like you're connected to it?
Yes. I literally could hear the trees, the rocks, everything that, it was a phenomenon for me. And I recalled when I was a lot younger that I tend to be outdoors in the trees. I was told all the time that I'm always outside and I seem to be talking out there and just having fun in the middle of like the trees in the yard.
Right.
And the thing was when I came back, my boyfriend at the time, he thought I was a devil worshiper.
That's a rough thing to throw on somebody.
That was a rough transition. And then as soon after that, my best friend and I had a trip to Las Vegas. And because of that phenomenon, it was almost like I felt like my spirit was just hovering above my body and I'm walking. It was such a really surreal experience, but it was something impactful for me. And when I was in Vegas, actually, it was almost like I could see their spirit like floating above their body while they're playing. So stuff like that. So at that point, I had that choice of, hey, do you want to go down this path? This will be quicker. It's not going to be easy, but it'll be a lot of fun for you, right? And then on the other hand, I had my life. I had my life, meaning I had nursing. I love to travel. I was with my boyfriend at the time, and we had fun traveling, and that was my thing. Going to different places, finding out different cultures, and I enjoyed that. And so at that time, I had to decide. And then coming back from Las Vegas, spending time with my friend, spending time with my friend though, we went to the Grand Canyon, right?
Mhm.
And I started to do some chanting at the Grand Canyon. I was really like in the zone,
Yeah.
I didn't care about what other people think. And all of a sudden, my best friend was like telling me, "Hey, stop that! It's really freaking me out," like. And then that was the turning point where when I came back, I said, you know what? I actually spoke. I spoke out to the universe and said, please just give me a little time. I'm having a great time right now. I want to learn more like this, But I think I chose to continue nursing. I feel like there's still things I need to learn, grow myself like this. So in a way, I kind of turned my back. That was the first time I turned my back, right? And then I actually said that, hey, in like, give me like about 4 years, or like, from my memory, I think it was 4 years, I think.
And when was this?
This was about
Roughly.
about 4 years before the accident.
Okay.
So I said, I think it might have been 2 or 3 years, but I remember there was a year I said it wasn't 2 years. From my memory, it might have been 3 or 4 years that I said, in 3 or 4 years' time, if I'm not in the path I'm not supposed to, like, jar me, like whatever it takes, just wake me up, do whatever it takes for me to get in the path that I'm supposed to be. Right. So then when the accident happened,
What's the accident?
the accident was a car accident.
Okay.
The first accident, I was still pushing myself. Even though I was in a lot of pain, I went to work until I couldn't even lift a bucket of water. And I was literally paralyzed. I lifted the water and I couldn't move. I just was like stuck there, couldn't move. And so I went to the doctor and they were like, can't. I had neck injury, I had lower back injury, I had herniation. I have hernia in my neck, lower back on the first accident. So I was out. I was in physical therapy 5 days a week in physical therapy, seeing doctors, like so many doctors, too many. And that was my life for a couple of months,
Yeah.
And then when I was getting ready, I was still teaching kids brain education at the time. I was still going and having my classes with the kids in Flushing, New York.
And this is Dawn.
Yeah,
brain
with body and
education.
brain,
Okay.
with body and brain. But I had my own. I was helping out as an assistant instructor, but I had my own class in the Flushing Center. So what happened was, when I was getting better, I said, "Oh, I'm going back to work soon." So this is the plan, because I'm having a great time teaching kids class. I was at work, I was traveling, I was doing everything that I wanted to do. I was really busy and happy, right?
Yeah.
And then bam, 3 months later, another car accident.
When it happened.
Wow.
Yeah. This is like crazy.
When it happened, did I feel like when something like that happens, we just kind of like take a second and we're like, oh, did that kind of happen to you?
Yeah, that happened to me on the stretcher, actually.
Jeez.
Because it was a miracle. I'm telling you, the way the accident happened was, we were about to exit on our exit home. We were like literally about to exit. You see that lane where you go this way? That's where we were. We got hit from behind and we were on the third lane. And then we got hit from behind and the car literally went 360 degrees. Didn't flip, but just went 360 degrees and over. So it was like a 1.5 round. And we hit the divider of the highway. We were on the highway.
Oh.
So we hit the divider on the highway. When the car stopped, incoming, like you saw the cars coming towards you.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And thankfully, when that happened, no car hit us. Right? And no, there was no car that we hit.
Wow.
So I think it was just adrenaline in my case, because I was in the end where the divider for the highway was. So when they asked us to get out, I climbed over, but they end up getting me on the stretcher. But the thing is, you go to the hospital. So that was it. That was in the stretcher. I was looking up in the night sky at the moon, and that was like, what are you trying to tell me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and only a few days later did I remember that, oh my gosh, like this is it. Time is up.
You asked for 4 years,
Wow.
and
That was
Yeah,
it.
this is it. Time is up. And then I never looked back since. I never looked back. It was starting really slow, but it was my aunt's death that really, I think, got the ball rolling even quicker.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I I can relate because we want to go back to what we're comfortable with and what we're familiar with.
Yeah.
And I've even noticed, like in my own experience, when I have like a psychic phenomena or like an intuitive hit,
Yeah.
I'll see it and I'll be like, wow, that's amazing. But then I'll like want to go back and do my laundry list or something. Like I want to go back to what's normal and comfortable very quickly.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that happened to you too. When it's,
Yeah.
I mean, no.
Yeah. I mean, it happens to me, but now it was because of what happened. You're like, hey, you go back to that and you know the
Right.
outcome. You know, if you keep going back, the outcome's still the same. You're gonna be unhappy with your life. You know, there's a movie I recently watched, which I think everyone should watch. It's called The Hate You Give. Phenomenal movie. It says what they ask the question, what do you live for and what do you die for? You know, I found my answer to that question. It's the same answer. What am I living for and what am I willing to die for? And from that on, I said, this is the reason for my living. And no matter what it takes, I'm going to go for it. Although sometimes I feel like I'm playing small, but I feel like I'm learning to grow out of it. You know, it's a learning experience. Us being here on Earth is really growing our soul.
Right.
So,
Because we can't do it when we're in the soul. You know, we got to come here.
And emotions play a really huge factor. I feel emotions should not be the one to control us, but more so a tool for us to grow ourselves. You know, this is our tool in our tool belt to use so we can better ourselves.
Right. Emotions are there for a reason. Go ahead, John.
Exactly. I was going to say, so after this second accident, where were you in life? And you said that was the signal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So kind of take us through after that second accident.
Yeah, the second accident, I had a lot of physical symptoms. And at some point, they were telling me, you don't need medical help anymore. That physical therapy wasn't doing, it was helping a little bit, not too much. And then acupuncture was what helped me the most. You know, for at least, I had some ankle issues also on the right ankle. I tried to go back to work because of the insurance. You know, at some point I'd have to pay $700 a month from my own pocket for insurance. It's crazy.
It's insane.
So I forced myself to go back to work, and I was at work for 2 weeks, and I asked for holiday for like I think 2 or 3 of those days, which means I only worked for 4 days in 2 weeks time, and I called out again because I was out again because my ankle was swollen. Like my foot was just swollen. Everybody saw it, so I was out again. And acupuncture helped me for like 2 hours be able to walk normal.
Mm-hmm.
So I know energetically because you know they help with the meridian alignments and clearing off the blockages this way. Energetically, it really helps. Also, I did a lot of I did a bunch of trigger injections and but they didn't really help that long. There was one time it helped, and then it doesn't stay that long. But it was the medications. The medication, I can't handle it.
Right.
I took this baclofen. It's supposed to like make you sleep a little bit, sleepy for like a night. For 3 days, I was out like half of the day. I can't remember. That was scared me the most. Was I can't remember what I did half the day. For 3 days, it was scary not to remember, like having like amnesia.
Blacking out. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like that, and it scared me. And I said, "What can I do?" Can you believe I'm a Dawn Master, right? But I didn't grow up to believe or to see it as an option in healing,
right?
Because it was not ingrained in me that was. Everything is medical. We really depend on the medical all the time. Mm-hmm. That's my upbringing.
Right. So it seems like the acupuncture kind of like I guess if we were an energetic hose, it was unkinking your hose temporarily, and then it got rekinked, and then you would just have to keep redoing it. So I
Yeah.
guess, um, how did you get? I mean, I guess how did you start moving towards like, oh, I can do this for myself. I'm assuming.
Yeah. So with the acupuncture, because I said I need to be paying it myself, I need to work more to pay for it. So it defeats the purpose.
Right.
You work
Good way to
more,
put it.
right? You work more, you get blocked at work, and then you go get them blocked so you can pay for what it just
Mhm.
cancels out all your hard work, right? So I said, hey, Marie Anne, this is what you've been doing, this is what you've been teaching people. Why don't you apply it to yourself, So then I actually went to acupuncture school because I said, I can't do this. Like I can't be lifting patients or like, my legs swelling this much. Like I can't do this like when I'm like 70 years old. Like what can I do that makes me happy? What can I do that I wake up every morning and excited to go to work and really makes me happy with what I'm doing. So I said, you know what? I need to be more in tune with my own intuition. How can I access my intuition consciously rather than like having it just come to me?
Right.
I didn't you know? So I said, how can I be able to have more access or control, or when can I have the capacity to open that connection rather than just have it come randomly, right? And surprisingly, when I asked that question the next day, there was a spiritual reader school that Rebecca Tinkle just opened up with Yolessa Lawrence in Sedona.
Hmm.
It was almost like every time I asked a question sincerely about my growth, it
Right,
always got answered right away.
Wow.
And
It
Rebecca,
does that. Mhm.
yeah, and Rebecca Tinkle, actually, we were in healer school back in the day. Like that was the first course I was in. It was healer school in, I think it was 2004, 2006 maybe, or 2007. It was 2007.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but she actually she got mentored by Ilchi Lee, like
Mhm.
direct mentorship, because her intuition happened. She just saw stuff like right away, and then
Like
it,
energy or spirits or
yeah,
whatever.
it
Okay.
was, yeah, and then like she didn't, I guess she needed a mentor, and then Il Chili took, helped her, and so this time around she actually mentored.
Yeah, I saw she did the forward for your book too.
Yeah, she mentored me, so I was there. Funny enough, I said, oh, I really want the class with a bunch of people, I said, because it was a lot cheaper, right? But the universe really interjected and like, nope, you're gonna do a one-on-one mentorship because you have a acupuncture, your school, you have acupuncture school when the group class happens. So I said, you know what, this is my only chance. I'm gonna take it because this is what I truly wanted. So the thing with me was there's always something like a like a clink or some spark. I can feel it in my
Yeah.
heart. If there's a little spark, that means I really want it.
And that's intuitive, right? When
Yeah.
you can feel that spark, it's you know it, and it's like, yep, that's bigger me, higher self, whatever it is, telling me, yep.
Right,
Kind
right.
of.
And a lot of times we actually don't pay attention to it.
Yeah.
Right. So, the intuition, it becomes stronger when we listen to it more and more.
And we see more synchronicities, which are just, I'm thinking of something and then it happens or whatever it is. Like it clicks. It's like we're snapping all these puzzle pieces together, and we've been looking at the puzzle pieces for so long, but we're finally just like, okay, I can just put it together, and it's really obvious and easy how to do it if I'm just present.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. It's interesting you mentioned the puzzle pieces because that's exactly what I felt when the book when the manuscript finished, I felt like all the puzzle pieces in my life, everything that I had, that had experienced, I needed to go through them. I need to go through them to be where I am now. I have this story now because of what I had been through in my life. And there was actually a piece of the puzzle that didn't fit in the puzzle that I had been forcing to fit in that puzzle.
Yeah.
Relationship-wise, I realized that I've been so desperate for many years trying to fit this in the puzzle of my life, and I had to let that part of me go because I needed to move on to the next chapter in my life. And I feel like a lot of times people, like you mentioned, people hold on to what they're comfortable with, right? And but they're unhappy and they're struggling, and it's really hard to move forward and be your bigger self, be your authentic self, when you're holding on to something that you think is good for you, but in reality is just what you're comfortable.
Right. It's the logic. I feel like it's like the logical brain being like, this has always been here. We can't get rid of this. Like this has to stay in place. Otherwise, I will lose my identity. Right. Because our identity is now attached to this thing, whatever it is, relationship, job. We define ourselves in some way by it. Right.
Yeah. So I actually mentioned in the book, people want to change, but they're really not ready. Or they think they want to change and they talk about wanting to change, but they don't change because they're afraid of change. But, even I'm not saying I'm perfect, because I'm also, I get scared of change, but there are parts of change that I'm so excited about, that creative part of us as humans, driving back, driving on the bridge. I look at the bridge and I realize, oh my gosh, like who would have thought that someone can put like this metal beam all the way down to the riverbed? Like, who would have thought people would invent, like welding machines that are under the underwater, fire underwater.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't, back in the day, right? Not that I was back in the day, but they didn't have all these things. Just like humans, that's what's different with us, is that we can create stuff out of nothing.
Right. It's moving potential ether energy, like things in our imagination, which I think is just like a higher dimensional vibration, I guess, and we're just breaking it 3D, right?
So we're afraid of all our creativeness, all our originality. It's because we're afraid of not conforming to the norm, or we're afraid of not feeling like we belong somewhere. Because I feel like as human, we somehow have this desire to want to belong to something, to want to be accepted.
We do.
But really, the most important thing is really accepting that creativeness, that weirdness, that originality. Loving that part of you and just living that. It took me a while, but I was able to find a community that you're not alone, to know that you're not alone, that there's a lot of people out there that are embracing their authenticity and really encouraging you to do the same. So I'm so glad, like, social media right now is there's positive and negative of things, but it also showcased that those who feel different, who feel unaccepted, that there are people and there are communities that will accept you for who you are. We're all growing, so whatever it is in the past, it does catch up with you in the future, in your present, if you don't face it. And that's really what I did. Was I faced what I was running away from. I faced my fears, and it's not really. It was fortunate that the accident happened. Now, mind you, I said fortunate. I was about to say fortunate, but this is where you flip a switch in your brain and say it was fortunate, because now you're living the life you want to live and you're creating the life you want to create.
Mhm.
If that didn't happen, if something that huge in your life didn't happen, then you would probably still be doing the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna ask you, would you think things would have changed if you didn't have those accidents?
No, I'd still probably
So
do
you're
the
saying,
same thing. But
yeah,
then it's that whole cycle again because I still do think about, hey, why don't you just go back to doing that? You see some of your coworkers, they're happy doing what they're doing. They travel, they have their kids. You know, my my own dad is like telling me, "Oh, you should have kids. That's the reason why do you think you're alive? Because you should, that's the reason for you being alive."
Mhm.
And I'm like, "Sorry, dad, but I don't agree with you." You
yeah.
know?
It,
And yeah.
yeah. I was gonna say, is there any advice you would give to people that maybe have not experienced a big event like that to change their behavior, or people that want to change but they're just scared and they haven't experienced something like you or Trey have experienced?
Okay. Um, so most of the time, you know that you feel like there's something wrong,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and you don't say or you don't share that with anybody because you might think or feel that they're gonna say, "Oh, it's just all in your head.
Or they might reject you.
You're crazy, right?" Right, or you might get rejected. But from my experience and from what I've noticed is that the more you don't listen, it will keep showing up.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
It will keep showing up if in different ways. In my case, the major thing that happened was the accident, and consequently, all these physical manifestations happen, right? Um, and for others, it's really, for others it may be gaining weight, unable to lose it no matter how much they try, right?
Right.
For others, it might be constant headache or back pain or fatigue, just completely tired all the time. You're tired because you're just waking up and just pretending, putting up
Yeah.
Yeah.
a different person. You're literally just every time you wake up, you're acting.
Right. That's why in my book I said we are not the masks we wear,
Yeah.
because a lot of us are acting, you know.
Mhm. So it's tiring. You
It
get
is.
tired from acting all day long, acting and
Yep.
just figure all your brain's constantly working and saying, what should I say so that I can look good, or what can I say so I can look smart, look smart,
Yeah.
or what can I say so then they will be impressed by me, you
And
know?
isn't it interesting once you let go of that, what should I say? If you're just present in the moment, usually it'll just come to you.
Yeah.
Usually, a stupid pun for me is it'll just come to me in the moment or whatever it is. Like if I'm present and engaged in a conversation, then you get your intuitive hits and you don't have to try. It just happens, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So what I say is intuitive hits. That's the reason why I went to the spiritual readers school, because I wanted to know when to just not have it hit me. Although it's really powerful when it comes to you, you're like, aha! It's this aha moment, and there's like the light bulb, like cha-ching.
Mhm.
But really, it's like these moments when you said, oh, when you feel connected, when you know that what's coming out from you. The greatest message for me was really uh, being a channel for the greater forces of the universe.
So when you wrote the book, I kind of when I wrote mine, I feel like I kind of channeled it because I wasn't getting in the way. When you wrote yours, did you kind of feel the same way?
So when I wrote the book, funny enough, a lot of things happened to me when I was writing that book.
Yeah. So I
I
guess
was
how did it start? Yeah.
so the book. It was my aunt that led me. My aunt passed away in um, May or June of last year. Right? It was very sudden, but I did a reading with her actually before she passed away, and I just knew I couldn't. I can't say, oh, we're all gonna die someday. That's just the honest truth, right?
Mm.
But I'm not the one to say, hey, I see this color and I think you're dying. Like miracles happen. That's not me. I help people present not, don't expect me to tell you what your future is, because you can actually create your own future. So back to my aunt. She eventually passed away, but we were very close because she was like my mother to me. I grew up with her. In the book, I mentioned that I had been abused, and she was the person that buffered whenever she's there. If she's not there, obviously there's no one to buffer, but whenever she's there, she always tries to be the buffer. And we slept in the same bed like until 10 years old. She would wake me up like gently, and so in a way, she was my mom for like 10 years. We were very, very close. So I went back, and I went back to the Philippines when we buried her, and then I came back to the United States about a week later, and I met her in the lucid dream.
I'm familiar with those.
That was the guide for me. It was because when I reach out to her, I would usually call the Philippines, right? And she would always be the first one to answer all the time because she's like the secretary of the business. So she always be the first one and who will pick up. So somehow I called the Philippines in the dream, and she picked up. And then I said, well, you passed away. I know you passed away. But, she had asthma, but I couldn't hear her wheezing anymore. And I knew she was in the place that she was supposed to be. Like, oh, then this is my chance to finally talk to her. And before she passed away, she had actually wanted to talk to my boyfriend at the time. But he's like, oh, when is he going to come? And he never came. And I said, and then I started to kind of talk about that because I felt like she wanted to get to know him, right? And so I said, oh, Mom, this is where he's at. I mean, not Mom, Aunt, mom, right? I said, like,
mommy energy.
Yeah. She's like, this is where he's at, but then this is where I'm at. So it's a really difficult situation. What do you think I should do? And she didn't answer that. She actually just told me, she told me, like, follow what you really want to do with your life, she said. And then she had me wear this white, like, Chinese dress, but it had flowers in the bottom, right? And she said, why don't you be a teacher? And then I could feel it, like, no, wait, I want to ask something else, but I can't remember what. and then the whole thing just and then she said, why don't you be a teacher and teach people like me when I was still alive, people just like me, she said. So the thing with her is when we did the reading, I noticed that normally if she didn't have cancer, if she didn't find out she had cancer, if she didn't go through what she had gone through, which was invisible illness initially, she wouldn't have paid attention to what I had to offer. I could still see the wall she was putting up when we were doing the reading. But the wall, my mom was there, and she said, you really should listen to her. My mom said that to her, and I'm glad that she really took it in, because after we did the session, she ended up like pouring everything to my mom, everything that she had been holding in, because that's what I saw. I saw that she's been holding this for most of her life. My aunt's mom, she was holding this in. So when she told me, why don't you be a teacher and teach people just like me? I said, why am I wearing that dress? That dress had some significance. Why did she have me wear it? And I looked it up, and white actually represented, I said, I'm going to go teach. I can't be like a math teacher. My heart, like, I love math and everything when I was younger, but I'm like, my heart's not in this math teaching thing, like an English teacher. I'm like, no, like, and then I looked it up, and it says white is really like a spiritual teacher, but I, growing up, I grew up Catholic, devout Catholic, and my whole family pretty much are Christians. And to say that I'm a spiritual teacher, I know is something very difficult for most people to to accept, right? Spiritual guide, maybe, but still difficult to accept. So I said that it doesn't matter what you're called, really.
Right.
What matters is how much you can make a difference in people's lives to be better. So you can call yourself whatever works that will help you reach into their hearts. That matters the most. Yeah. So instead of spiritual reader, like I put down a spiritual reader, spiritual guide. The people that tend to come to me, they're like, "Oh, tell me about my future."
I get that too.
And I'm like, no, that's not what I do, And then now it changed to energy healer, but energy healing is also not that well accepted just yet in my ideal readers.
Right.
So like, what can I do to really? I had talked to my aunt still. I said, hey, like I know you brought me down this path. Like what can I do to like reach people? Like how can I be big enough to serve a lot more people than the people that I've been serving so far? And then guess what? The next day, I opened the computer and there was an application to be an author.
Weird, right?
Yeah.
And the thing was, I'm like, okay, is this it? I don't know, because I could feel a little twinge in my heart, but it seems like, I didn't care. I'm like, let me just apply. If it's meant to be, it's gonna happen. If it's not meant to be, whatever, right? But there's nothing wrong with applying. Let me just apply, But really, before the wake up, I had a dream too. I had another dream about collaborating with someone who's going to help me, but it felt very businesslike, but there was a lot of love that was happening in that transaction. And then when I woke up, that was when the application just showed up right there. And I just applied, and then I applied and I got a call and said, hey, we just have a few questions to see if you can be in the interview. And then after the few questions, I got the interview, and then it was, I think, from 200 people or something. They only picked like 20 or 25. Like I didn't know how to be. I didn't think I was going to be an author of some book, But I said, Marie Anne, like they asked me the question, like, why do you think you're ready now? Why is now your time? I really wasn't ready before it showed up right there. I was afraid of becoming well known. I was afraid. It's the responsibility.
Right.
I was afraid of taking on a bigger responsibility. Your whatever you're trying to help, or whatever you're an expert at, is going to be in this book. It's in paper, okay? And and that is already a responsibility for you to stand by. So I asked myself, Marie Anne, like, if you don't go forward with this, you're just going to go back to what you normally go back to again. And that you don't want that anymore. And the consequences of you going back to how everything was. Something's going to happen. Something's going to happen that's going to smack you in the face again. And get you back on the right track. So, and you've been guided all this time. Every time you've chosen what your heart has been telling you, every time you've chosen to take action in the twinge in your heart, something always comes out, a better outcome, and helping a lot more people. So when I was writing this book, Trey, and when I was writing this book, I had to really connect, because I could not write. I vowed to myself, I will not write this book when I'm not connected. I was in school, nursing school, I was in acupuncture school full time. I was paying my own tuition, right? I was working as a nurse full time, right? And I was writing this book. And I said, I know I'm going to go through a bunch of other things I know that the universe will show me other things to write in this book, and I was ready for it. And I said, I'm ready to take on responsibility. I'm ready for people to know me. People know you have a responsibility. you have a responsibility to your clients, to the people you serve, the people that you reach, your ideal readers. But it was when my heart became really huge. I felt like yes, I'll take it on, and I'll do it, whatever it takes. Like I said, the question of what what is your reason for living and what is your reason for dying? It's a big question. Yeah. And so during that time I met with my dad, who was estranged to me for like 20 years. My mom and dad separated about the first year we came to the United States when I was 10 years old. So I hated him. And I didn't talk to him, and I said, I can't be a hypocrite and talk about healing and growth when I can't face my own past. So I went to California, met up with him, and so I went through that, and then I came back. I had one chapter left in that book, and I broke up with my ex-boyfriend now. We've been together for more than 8 years.
Wow.
So everything the ball just went rolling like crazy. and then yet I finished my manuscript.
Yeah.
I actually told my editor, I'm like, I can't give you the final manuscript. Like, can you please give me like 3 more days? Because I was so like, oh my gosh,
I feel you.
Yeah, it was. That's how it felt. Like, it's too much for me. Like, I was emotional, but I really embraced the pain. I'm like, Marie Anne, you are not you're not shy to pain. I literally embraced pain when my aunt died. When the breakup happened, I embraced pain again. It was just like, what's happening to you? My heart. Like, I could literally feel my heart have palpitations once in a while.
Yeah.
But I knew where it's coming from, But like you said, the only way for me to write was when I knew I was connected. Because if I'm not connected, I don't even want to pick up anything to write. Because I always say, help me, guide me to write the perfect words, the perfect sentence, the perfect paragraph to reach the hearts of those I'm meant to serve. That's how I start my writing process every time.
That's a good, and it's just kind of like people call some things rituals, but I think you're just like, it's just like setting the intention of I'm opening up my channel, higher self flow through me. And like, we're obviously a part of the writing because like we're the mechanism through which the words come through. So like it has the flavor of Marie Anne, or it has the flavor of Trey Jackson when the words come out, but it just flows, and it flows like water, and it's kind of effortless, right? When it's coming through. And this for artists, it's for sculptors, it could even be accountants. It doesn't really matter, but like when you're connected, you're connected.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
John, did you have something? Or
no. It got answered.
She probably intuitively knew.
Yes, exactly.
So you sent in the manuscript, and I was hesitant to send mine in too. I actually went to like a public channeling and like asked like, is it ready? And like, oh, it's been ready for a long time. You just have been gripping to it and you wouldn't let it go. I don't know if yours kind of felt the same way when you were like hesitant to send it in, but.
So the editing, I have to tell you, my editor is amazing. Yeah. But I held back the first time I sent in my final manuscript. I held back because I was afraid. I was afraid, if I put this on, well, there was that fear,
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, nope, you got to add those in because that's how you connect with people.
Make it human too, right?
Right. Yeah. And then, so about 1/3 of that book, I added in the time that I was editing. I added about 1/3 to almost a half of that book got added. And she was telling me, oh my God, like everything that you've been going through, like everything that you've been going through. Because I also had mandatories at work. Like I had to travel to upstate. Like I had to travel upstate a little bit to take my mandatories for nursing. And then I was having my exams and in acupuncture school. Like this was all happening at once, right? And my love life crumbled. It was just crazy. And she was like, in 3 days time, I just sent her the edited. She was like, I don't know how you did it, but it's great because there was like, I think 2 weeks of editing, about 2.5 weeks of editing, which I already asked to extend. So the first 2 times that we met, I didn't really do much. I just kind of like, I didn't do much because it was really too much for me. But the last week, basically I only had 3 days and I did everything in 3 days. And she was like,
interesting.
She was like, I don't know how you did it. I said, I don't know how I did it either, but it's done. Here it is.
Probably got some help, right?
Yeah.
Spirit guides and all.
Yeah. So, because I said, this was, I felt that my aunt actually, they told me that you have more than one book actually, but you need to pick one. Yeah. That's what it is. And my aunt guided me this way, and I said, with like everybody killing them, not everybody, but a lot of famous people killed themselves at that time when I was writing the book. And I said, this is really important. I really should talk about depression, all that stuff. But then my heart was really in a different book, and I said, just you have to pick one. You can't, you can't, you have to focus.
But yeah,
you need to focus to really get your message across. That's what it was.
So we're getting a little close to time, but I guess I just want to, now that the book is out there, have you started getting like clients or feedback from people saying like, wow, we're starting to get that not recognition, but it's just like the thing I put out there, it wasn't just for me because other people have been going through this too. And then when they find the book, they're like, oh, it's not just me either. Has that been happening?
So what I noticed with the people that have read my book, they said that it's an eye-opener. What I noticed is it's like I'm thwarting the tradition or, going against what's normal, really. It's really unconventional methods in health and healing, health and happiness. What's not normally seen as normal is in this book. It's always been there with us. It's ingrained in us, but we were just never brought up to believe that it's true. We all believe it,
right?
But we never were brought up to acknowledge it.
Is it kind of teaching your body how to remember how to heal itself in a way?
Yeah. So with the body, what I notice is we don't really listen to it very well.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of that too, but knowing how it's like being aware of it and doing something about it makes a huge difference.
And
like headache.
Or whatever the part of the body is, because usually there's an emotion associated with the part of the body that's hurting, or symbolically, like if your right leg's hurting, usually it means you're having trouble moving forward, or if your left leg hurts, you're stuck in the past. There's always some kind of symbolic attachment, and maybe that's even too deep, but it's just like it's real, right?
Knowing where it's coming from, though, I mentioned about obstacles, that's the key. Knowing where it's coming from. For instance, headaches. I mentioned headaches because a lot of people have it, and a lot of people don't know where it's coming from. And in my case, I've had a bunch of different headaches, and I noticed they come from different places and different times. What I thought was coming from the liver actually came from my lower back. And what I thought was coming from my lower back actually came from my stomach. And each one have a different emotion attached to it, and this emotion and energy, they're all intertwined, and how we deal with it and how our brain needs to see it and needs to either take action, do something about it or not. It's all really connected. So for us to say, let's just deal with this with a Tylenol or an ibuprofen, it just shuts out what our body really is trying to tell us.
Right. It's like your body's calling you and saying, hey, pick up the phone. And you're like, I'm going to just unhook the phone.
Yeah. Wow. Really unhooked it. Not even just not answer. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. That is really great. So is there anything that you want to kind of like leave the listeners with before we get to closing time? Usually we'll just kind of close up with not a message for all of humanity, but just like, whatever you're intuitively feeling right now to say.
Yeah. So I really encourage you guys to pick up Taking Back My Health and Happiness, the book Taking Back My Health and Happiness, especially if you feel a little twinge in your heart, or this book really came from my heart. I wrote this as a bridge to those who are looking for answers, feeling lost. You feel lost and helpless and confused as to why you're feeling the way you're feeling, your body condition, not knowing where it's coming from. Also, I have a method there. It's called Clear Healing Method, and for those who would like to reach out to me and have a chat with me, and I actually offer. You need to apply though. There's an application process because I can only take a certain amount of a handful of people actually. I still am working in New York as a critical care nurse, and also I do this. And so if you'd like to reach out to me, you can apply at clearhealingmethod.com. And my book is on ebook right now. It's on Amazon. Taking Back My Health and Happiness. And if you're listening to this podcast for the month of February till the end of this month, I'm giving a huge discount for those who will be part of the program for this month at least. So just let me know the code word, I guess you'd say. Code word is a free mind. Okay? That's the name.
That's funny.
It, right? Free mind. So then we'll know that you listen to this podcast again at the end of this month. So free mind is the code, and huge discount for those to be part of that program.
Cool. I think John, will this come out this month, or is that?
It'll come out the 27th.
So they'll have they'll have a day.
All right. You know what? Just I'll have it go until the end of March.
That'll be good.
Yeah, that works.
Good. Yeah.
The end of March will be better.
And we'll put all the links on the YouTube video and in the podcast too, so they can go to the Amazon and go to your website as well.
Right. clearhealingmethod.com. And then if they'd like to email me, it'll be on that site, the clearhealingmethod.com.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Cool.
Oh, it's too bad that this is over. It's too fast. I really enjoyed talking with you guys. I talk quite a bit,
Yeah. We have people on. It's only an hour, but like we have people back on. Because there's a lot more to say usually, like to get into the actual content or like the actual healing methods or the actual like how do I release an emotion in my liver? Please tell me more. That kind of stuff. Yeah.
So I actually did mention. I know this is. I mentioned about the obstacles because everyone has different ways of finding out what's wrong. But that's really where I come in. I call myself a medical intuitive because even at work I see energy, and like for instance, those who have I work in the recovery room now, so those who who have cancer, they just had a certain part of their body, certain part taken out, certain cancers taken out. Those who have hysterectomies, which means they take out the uterus, or have the breast taken out for breast cancer. Like I could see and sense the difference between the two, but they have a lot of similarities, that kind of thing. Like you mentioned earlier, Trey, about either the left leg or the right leg. They have their own also personalities, but what I noticed is I said to myself, why don't you do like a research? But I realized why it's very difficult to research something that's not seen by the naked eye.
Right.
Because when you ask a certain question, they might see themselves differently as somebody who sees them objectively. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. I feel like energy and interpreting it is kind of like learning a foreign language. Like,
Yeah.
and it's just, I'm only like a year into like feeling and seeing energy, but like I feel like I barely know anything. And even though when I was born, we were connected to it and we got away from it. Now we're just circling back, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can help people with identifying where's the blockage and how to release it and et cetera, I guess.
Yeah. So the more I did sessions, originally I didn't see color. I didn't see aura before. The more I was doing sessions, I started to see color. I started to see things. I started hearing things. And it's so great to know that there are people don't think I'm cuckoo.
Nope.
and it doesn't matter anymore because now I'm embracing that part of me. It's just part of who I am. I'm not saying I can see, like spirits. I mean, I see shadows here and there. But I feel like everyone have their own reason for being born, and for some it could be nursing, for some it could be being a doctor, for some it could be an entertainer, but there's always a reason for why we came here on earth, and for you to find out what your contract was or what was
I gotcha.
Your contract was for coming here on earth and not giving up on that. And just because you don't know it yet, that's usually a time when you're like, I'm confused. I don't know what's wrong, but something's wrong. That's what it is. It's like basically telling you, hey, you gotta know what you want in this life, what you stand for, and it's totally fine to be where you are now because it will start you on your journey to finding out the answer. And that journey actually gives you the tools. I call them superpowers, right?
I like superpowers.
You start picking up or developing your superpowers. And then when the time comes, oh yes, this is what I'm meant to do. This is what I'm living for, what I'm dying for. And then you got your superpowers that you're going to be nurturing. That's what happened to me. And I think it's fabulous to be in that space. So, your readers who feel this way, I think it's fabulous for you to be in that spot and knowing that there are people who come before you and totally understand what you're going through, and that you're not alone and that you will be okay. As long as you sincerely just follow your heart. I know it's not easy to say, oh, what is my heart telling me now? It's not telling me anything, other than I'm a complete mess, but it's okay. That's the start, really. That's the beginning of your new beginning. I think that's absolutely wonderful.
Awesome.
Like, really look for help if you need to. It's very wise. It's a very wise thing for you to look for help when you need to, because that means you don't want to be stuck. Not wanting to be better is that says something about your character.
That's your spirit coming through.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess we're gonna close up shop. But thank you so much for coming on and like taking the time to do this with us and share your experience with us. And share your book, because it's a tool for other people to help themselves wake up and remember.
Well, thank you for having me, John and Trey.
Thank you.
So lovely to speak with you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you for taking the time to come on and speak with us.
Yeah, and we'll stay in touch. I'm sure, like I said, I feel like there's a lot more to be said. So I feel like we'll probably have you back on in the future at some point.
I'd love that. Thank you.
Cool to the beans. Okay. Toodles on the recording.